Yesterday, there's never a day that I can take off. Yesterday, and I'll pull some images up on your screen. There was a protest outside of the NAACP headquarters outside of Houston. And you can see, if you look closely, they have banners that said "White Lives Matter." They had a Confederate flag. They had white supremacist images. I mean, they were heavily armed. I mean, they have long rifles. Looks like that's an AR-15 on his shoulder. It was a white supremacist wet dream out there in front of the NAACP. The purpose of their protests, and let's talk about the purpose of their protests. And the leader and organizer of the protest is this man, Ken Reed. And Ken Reed said, and you can see his Donald Trump hat on his head, Donald Trump 2016. He told the Houston Chronicle, "We came out here specifically today to protest against the NAACP and their failure in speaking out against the atrocities that organizations like Black Lives Matter and other pro-Black organizations have caused, the attack and killing of white police officers, the burning down of cities, and things of that nature." All right, let's talk about Mr. Reed. Let's talk about the reason for protests. Atrocities. Some people would consider the ongoing week in and week out killing of black men and women and children to be atrocities. I would agree. The killings of the officers in Baton Rouge and Houston by those two deranged individuals were tragic. I think atrocities is a big word, but maybe he just wanted to use a big word. But they're definitely tragic and something that shouldn't be minimized. But you know what is also tragic are the white people who are killed by police officers, by hyper-militarized police officers. And what's amazing to me is that instead of them protesting the white people who are being killed on an everyday basis, because numerically, not percentage wise, but just the raw numbers, more white people are killed by police than black people. So you would think that they would be, if white lives, I mean, they have a banner, for Christ's sake, that says "White Lives Matter," right? Let's look at the banner, right? If white lives actually matter to them, you would think that they would protest police officers over reach of their authority and their abuse of the people, but they don't do that. What they do instead is protest organizations like Black Lives Matter and, quote, other pro-black organizations. That's because they don't want anyone, particularly black people, to have a voice above and beyond the position that they have relegated us to in society. In other words, don't get out of line. So while they're here and they're protesting and they're trying to make a statement saying they're protesting the NAACP because the NAACP hasn't come out against, no, there's no reason to come out against Black Lives Matter, because Black Lives Matter, if Black Lives Matter is responsible for the atrocity in Houston and in Baton Rouge, then surely this guy's mentor and his beloved Donald Trump is responsible for all the white nationalism that is being fomented to the top of our society right now. Right. Surely these websites, the Conservative Christians Concerned Citizens Council, are responsible for Dylan Roof and the shooting of the 9 people at Emmanuel AME, Mother Emmanuel AME. Right. So we're going to make that kind of jump and attribute the actions of every individual to someone who is espousing, or to an organization that espouses an ideology that remotely comes close to or intersects with, then there's a lot of attribution of blame that must go around, starting with white people and white organizations. Now, that's just me arguing the merits of his argument, arguing against the merits of his argument. In the middle of his interview, Mr. Reed talked about how they're not a racist organization and how they're out here for unity. But they came out with several AR-15s. They came out with the Confederate flag. They came out with white nationalist posters that said "White Lives Matter" because it what point in American history have we ever felt that white lives didn't matter? I'm starting to think that white lives don't matter to white people who won't say anything against police who are killing all these white people every single day. In that regard, maybe white lives don't matter, but it's not because another race is subjugating white people. It's because white people are complicit with the police officers, and they don't want to speak out against white people being killed by police officers, because then they will inevitably have to speak out against the black people that are being killed, or the police officers that are killing black people. So instead of ever treading into the territory where they could find some solidarity in the sense that police officers in general are hyper militarized, they are in America, we allow our police officers to kill people, and we give them so much leeway to do so and so much benefit of the doubt. So we allow this, and instead of ever allowing themselves to tread into an intersection where they can find commonality with black people, because white people numerically are killed more than black people, but not as a percentage of the population, instead of doing that, they would rather be silent on all of the white people who are being killed. So if white lives don't matter, the only time they don't matter is to white people who will not stand up and stand out and say something against the overwhelming number of white people being killed by police officers. In other words, the very people out there holding a damn sign saying white lives matter, white lives don't really matter to them. Not enough for them to find a scent of commonality with black people in terms of police brutality and police shootings. Now, that's just me being a nice guy arguing against his argument. But the reality of it is, these are just some white nationalist trash. Ask me how I know. Okay, I'll tell you. Notwithstanding the Confederate flag, right? Let's just take a look at this image. Notwithstanding the Confederate flag, because they're going to swear that the Confederate flag is heritage, not hate, right? And even if it's not heritage, even if it's not hate, rather, it's at a minimum the flag of treason, at a minimum, right? But we'll leave the Confederate flag alone, because there's some people who are good Southerners, good old boys from the South who don't mean nobody no harm. They just know all they known all their life was the Confederate flag. All right, we'll leave that alone. But there are two other images in here, and I'm going to focus on one. Well, the phoenix that's on the White Lives Matter banner is an image that's associated with white nationalist organizations. But in particular, I want to focus on the poster that says 14 words. 14 words, since they are here for unity and they're not here for division and they're not here for racism. 14 words, according to the Anti-Defamation League, 14 words is a reference to the most popular white supremacist slogan in the world. And I quote, these are the 14 words: "We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children." The term reflects the primary white supremacist worldview that unless immediate action is taken, the white race is doomed to extinction by an alleged rising tide of color purportedly controlled and manipulated by the Jews. So, Mr. Reed, with your Donald Trump 2016 hat, and you're concerned that the NAACP is not out here condemning the actions of Black Lives Matter, yet and still your organization is out here pounding the drums of white supremacy in its purest form. I don't know if there's anything else to say to you about that. Matter of fact, I know there's nothing else to say about that.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.